Hi, I am Amelia Fabriches, and this is my Module 3 Special Education Interviews. For the child fines procedure, the special education teacher was definitely the most knowledgeable on this topic. We have a cooperative that more or less runs and facilitates the child fine procedures. Because we are at a high school level, at a rather small school, we often do not have to deal with the child fines. By the time they get to us, they've already been identified. In fact, our principal has only dealt with that twice in his time being principal in the 6 years that he's been principal. The co-op does monthly fines for the students, and they mostly catch those needs at an early age and do some early intervention. Um, the para had little knowledge regarding this topic and has never been involved. In my interviews, everybody I interviewed works at the school that I do, so we are all in the same school, and that is at a high school. So the most challenging part of their role in regards to special education, after reading the dissertation for the assignment previous to this, uh, and reading that principals often aren't prepared for special education at the leadership position, I was not too surprised when I got the answers from the principal that I did. He had claimed that he had limited experience and was not all that prepared for what his role would be with special education. And so learning those laws and the regulations and just learning as he went, he said was definitely the most challenging. And then the special education teacher definitely claimed that mastering the balance of paperwork and her direct service with the students was the most challenging part of her job. The para, who was actually a retired classroom teacher of 30 years, said that finding the best way to help each student individually is challenging. He also claimed that sometimes reteaching things can be tough. He also claimed that remembering his role and his place sometimes can be challenging. He has to learn several different teachers' expectations and has to hold the students accountable to those teachers, not necessarily hold them accountable to what his expectations might be. Then the most rewarding part of their job when dealing with special education. This was my favorite question, I think, of all of them. I just really enjoyed reading the responses. Universally, each person, more or less, to paraphrase, was all about the student's success on an individual level there. They each mentioned how often Sped students are so used to failing that seeing them succeed is truly rewarding because they see those students gain confidence and they see that hard work finally pay off in a different way than general education students do. And then they also see the parents become very appreciative, and students also become very appreciative of their learning and the work that they've put in. And so just seeing that across the board, knowing that all of them find joy in seeing the success of the student. The advice on the supervision of the special education staff. Um, so the principal definitely talked about the value of hiring and what that process looks like. He more or less said that if you have to micromanage the special education teacher, that's not a good thing and that they shouldn't be in that position. Um, each position claimed that they have to trust each other to do their individual roles in regard to the special education. They each have a different role and they cannot try and micromanage and they can't try and do all of it. So having really strong people in those roles is very important. So being proactive and making sure that you have the people you want in those positions is extremely important. And the SPED teacher, both the para and the SPED teacher claimed that they must be willing to listen um, to the para. They have a lot of direct contact with students, and so they must be willing to listen. And our special education teacher also claimed that she works really hard to continue to show them respect and to be thankful and appreciative of everything they do because she realizes that sometimes they're on the front line of maybe some not wonderful issues that they have to deal with in regards to that special education student. how to work effectively with parents of the special needs children. I was amazed at how dedicated, excuse me, the special education teacher was to communicating with parents. Daily, she was communicating with parents in a variety of ways that was best for them. So whether that be willing to meet with them in person, calling them, texting them, emails, whatever is best for them at different times of the day, whether it be at school, on the weekends. And so just her dedication to communicate with them. And she had said that it's very critical for her to be doing that and to be proactive. Don't not reactive so much, but to be proactive. And then the principal talked about being honest with parents and also being supportive. And I thought those were both really good words to think about. He said that he doesn't, want to sugarcoat things, feed them false information, but he also knows that with what they're telling the parents, they will be supportive as well in helping their student. The para then talked about how he truly does little communication with parents. He has maybe a couple of times, but his job and his role is to be there one-on-one with the students during the school day, and he communicates with parents more or less through the special education teacher. How to work with regular ed teachers with students with special needs. So we have an interrelated Sped classroom at the high school we all worked with, and all of the identified students are in general education classrooms. Therefore, the Sped teacher and the paras must be proficient in a variety of subjects, and the general education teachers are included in those SIT meetings and the IEP meetings, and then the para and the Sped teacher communicate to the general education teachers what students what their needs are and tips how to best help them. But that also means that each student doesn't necessarily have a para with them in class. So sometimes they might be in a general education classroom, but they don't have a para in class with them. But they each have a resource hour for the most part that are in the special education classroom 1 hour a day. And that is when our special education teacher gets to spend more time with them. Advice for a first year administrator. The idea of listening and learning was a common theme across the boards. The principal stressed the fact that a first year administrator will not know everything. Having trusted people to lean on and ask questions is extremely important, and knowing where to find the answers and the will to find them and wanting to do that is very important. They all said that asking questions and having a trusted advisor and communicating was the key in being that first year administrator. And just the idea of you have to go in understanding that you're not going to know everything, and you can't try and act as if you do. You just have to be willing to listen and willing to learn. The role of the special education teacher and the building principal. Once again, the principal talked about the value of letting the special education lead the charge and trusting them and supporting them in that with the program of special education. The idea of not wanting to necessarily micromanage them. He also talked about communication and how important that is with parents, staff, students. For those general education teachers, he's kind of can be that liaison as far as communicating with them if he needs to. He also really helps coordinate meetings and schedules, things like that, and is 100% supportive of the special education teacher. The para also talked about how he looks to the Sped teacher as being in charge and being his boss. He always goes to the Sped teacher first. That's his go-to. That's who he respects. That's who he listens to. He doesn't go to the principal behind the Sped teacher's back or anything like that. He looks to the Sped teacher. And then the Sped teacher talked about how they will also work together to create effective interventions for students, along with planning meetings, IEPs, things like that. Then characteristics of aspiring administrators with regards to special education. The responses were fairly similar across the boards on this as well. The ability to grow and to ask questions, the willingness to learn, that was all really a common theme. And then using what you learn as you go and getting better and refining your skill as being an administrator was important. The Sped teacher talked about how they just must be excellent communicators. They must be calm. And the paraeducator talked about the diligence and the positivity and the supportiveness of the students, of the staff, all of those things that an aspiring administrator needs to have in regards to special education. And then post-interview thoughts. I really enjoyed doing this. It gave me a new perspective on special education from viewpoints I had never thought of. In my reflections, I found it was really awesome how students' success across the boards was the priority for the most part for each of those different positions, and how that was so rewarding for a principal, for a paraeducator, and a special education teacher. Each role was different, yet they really understood what was expected of them, but then they also understood the expectation of the other roles and how they have to work together. It's not a one-person job, and you can't try and master everything, and you have to work together. And I also found it important that they all had similar characteristics of an aspiring administrator, and that's just important for me to hear as a future administrator, just knowing that in different positions, those similarities of an aspiring administrator are expected, and that is the expectation, and knowing that those are really important was really valuable for me. Evaluations, I felt it was very insightful. Since I am not and never have been in any of those three positions, once again, I just really valued what their focuses are and how their roles were different and what each of them valued in their position. And then predictions. As a future administrator, I will prioritize communication with my staff, especially in regards to special education. I will also highly prioritize finding excellent hires for those positions in special education in order for our students and our school to have the best education possible. That way I can be proactive, and I am not micromanaging that position because I am confident that my hires will be excellent at their job. I will also be sure to have a confidant that I can seek help and find answers using that confidant. I will not have too much pride to believe that I know all the answers. I will have the willingness to find them and work hard to do so. And most importantly, I will keep the success of students at the forefront of my mind in everything I do. So when it comes back to it, is it for the good of the students ultimately, and are they going to benefit from this? Thanks for watching.